butter. So 7 o'clock in the evening. It's been dark for about 2 hours now. Got pretty warm today, and a lot of that snow started melting, but the temperature's starting to drop big time now. Cold front moving in. It was nice to see the bit of sunset over the meadow as the clouds got pushed out. But that brought in the cold air, so it's going to get down to about minus 12 or minus 15 maybe tonight Celsius. So this is the test. Of course, I don't have all the chinking done, so there's some air coming into the cabin, of course, and a bit around the doors. I haven't trimmed that yet. But it's going to be pretty warm upstairs, I would imagine, in the loft when I go to bed, because this stove is going to be cranked. Part of the reason and to keep this thing going pretty strongly overnight is because that stone floor, I want that to dry before the cabin cools down again and maybe freezes the mortar into the stone. So I want to keep that going all night. But because heat rises, of course, the loft's going to be quite warm, I think. But with the drafts, especially away from the fire, maybe it'll be perfect temperature, we'll see. So tonight I'm having lots of vegetables, got mushrooms, onion and pepper, and then I have a strip loin from a grass-fed Dexter beef. So this is strip loin from a grass-fed steer, weighed about 600 pounds and netted out maybe 150, 160 pounds of lean meat. And cost us about $5 a pound, so around $750 we paid for it, which included all the extras as well, all the tallow and the bones and stuff. So I'm going to eat here. I'll leave you and meet you upstairs in the loft on my way to bed after I eat. So this is going to be an interesting night. That the wood stove is fired right up. It's full of oak. Not sure how long it's going to last. This will be the first time I've kept a fire going. Tried to keep a fire going all night. So that's it for today at least. Good night. I'll see you in the morning. Okay, let's go look for some grouse or white-tailed deer. They're both open right now. Deer season just closed for rifles on Sunday last week, but bow season's open until December 15th. This is when I really like to hunt them. It's a lot easier to track them in the snow, and I prefer to hunt on the ground with traditional equipment by stalking and still hunting. A lot of people don't like hunting in these noisier conditions like this when the snow's crispy, but I actually prefer it. I've shot maybe 24 deer with a bow over my lifetime, and probably 15 of those have come from the ground while still hunting on days like this, or when it's even noisier, crusty snow. The reason for that is it slows me down. I don't want to go walking like a human, just steady pace through the bush, so I take a couple of steps and stop and listen. So two things happen. The deer hear that and they think it's another deer, so they often come to investigate. I've had them as close as touching the arrow. In fact, with this bow, had an arrow on leaning up against a tree like this on a well-worn trail, and I had a doe walk by maybe 15 yards, less than that, probably 10 yards, and then one of her fawns came walking up right along this trail right here, and I'm literally against the tree like this, and she came and brushed by the end of the arrow, and I just went like this and touched her rump really, really gently. She still didn't know what I was or that I had done that. She thought it was just a branch. They walked, continued on, and then they turned around and came right back. The fawn maybe ended up 5 yards coming this way and looked at me a couple of times and never did figure out what it was. The reason for that is that I always make sure I have the wind in my favor, so the wind was coming this way and blowing my scent behind me. So it was a pretty cool experience to have them not figure out what I was. So the second reason is that I can hear the deer. So they can hear me and they come to investigate, but I can always also hear where they are. I have really good hearing for whatever reason. I think maybe it's not a physical thing. I think it's just more that I'm in tune with the surroundings that I'm in, and I can hear very, very well when I'm out here. I can distinguish between different animals, like the sound of a squirrel walking through the snow or the leaves, compared to a deer or a bear or a moose or something. And you would think that would be obvious, but in fact big game is typically quieter than the smaller game. They're more gentle and they're more careful with their steps, where a squirrel just goes scurrying through. So I know that there's a couple of grouse that hang out in this area right here. It's all hardwoods throughout the property, and then all along these water bodies we get these spruce and balsam fir and hemlock thickets. The deer and the grouse tend to stick to these areas in these conditions especially, and when the leaves are all down they have no cover up in the hardwoods, so they tend to get into these hemlocks and fir thickets. So I'm going to weave my way through here, see if we can find a grouse. If I hear any deer in the background, I'll pull out one of my broadheads and see if we can get close. This is that flu feather I talked about when I was sitting around the campfire when that grouse came and landed by me. This slows the arrow down in the air, so if I was to shoot up in a tree or shoot at one flying, it won't go very far. This will land and hopefully not go under the snow, because with these other kind of arrows they go under the snow. Now you saw these small game heads or target heads that I was shooting the hay bale with. It's called a judo point. It has those little wire clips on it, as well as a blunt head that has a little bit of shock absorption. When that hits the target or hits the ground, it doesn't dig in. Those wire prongs grab the ground and kind of flip the arrow up, so you don't get deep penetration. They're also really good for small game because they can transfer the shock of the arrow to that animal and it doesn't pass through it. So let's see what we can find. Let's go for a walk before the snow gets too heavy. So as often happens with ruffed grouse hunting, especially when they've been spooked a few times, which I have spooked these in the past, There's two sitting in the tree up above me. I'm walking along the ground, watching the ground, and I didn't notice them sitting up in the tree, so they just flew off. They separated. One went down there, one went up here, so probably worth following up on them, see if I can get one. It's pretty cold. The wind's starting to pick up. It's -9 Celsius right now. I'm probably not quite dressed warm enough, especially with my hands, to stalk slowly and silently, as I'll get too cold. So I'll probably just concentrate on the grouse. But with two up in the tree, there could have been another one too. I gotta keep an eye out. So last week, a lot of you guys had questions about this axe, this splitting maul, whatever you want to call it, that I was using to cut all that firewood up last week. So this is what it is. It's called a chopper one. It's made in the US. It was manufactured from, don't quote me exactly, I'll put the description below, and I had it on my Instagram account this week if you saw that. I think it was made in New Jersey from 1977 to 1989, I believe it was. And basically what it is, it's a mechanical splitter. So these little wedges here, when you strike the wood, these pop out, and there's a spring in there, spring both sides, that pull these wedges back in place after they engage when they hit the wood. And then you've got this pin system here for the wedges to rotate on. You know, I'm not one to add complication to life in general and in my tools in particular, which is one of the reasons I use hand tools as much as possible. But this thing, from all accounts, from what I've heard and my experience so far, is that they tend to last. I'm surprised the springs last as long as they do. I've heard of people using these for many years without those things ever failing. Now the good news is you can actually get these online. Chopper one, based on demand, I guess a lot of people asking about it, started manufacturing again. I'm not sure when, but if you go to their website, Chopper One Axe, I believe it's called, or chopperoneaxes.com, you can order these parts, but you can also order new axes now as well. So I'm going to, the reason I know that, because I was looking for parts and I thought I'll go and find them and then have some in stock. So I don't want to be stuck in the middle of whatever I'm doing and need parts for it, although I have another splitting maul as well. So that's basically what happens when that bit of the axe bites in. Once it gets to this point, that starts popping out, of course, with the wood on either side of it. So what happens is this little tiny piece of the wedge forces that log wide open. And it's very, very effective. Like, you need far less downward pressure, downward swing, momentum to get that log to split. So it's quite hefty. It's a nice big handle on the thing. So what I found is that, you know, the danger of splitting, you're swinging hard, and if it glances at all, it's coming back towards your shin. I find that not quite the case with this, because you can come down, straight down on it. And when you come straight down, even a glance is usually going to be sideways. The danger with a typical splitting motion is that you're coming like this, and when you carry through and mitts or glances off or even splits the wood and passes through, it's coming back towards your shin. The more you can come straight down, and even if that means bending your knee, bending your back, and coming down with it, then the momentum is straight down instead of back towards you. And that's the benefit of a long handle too. Shorter the handle on an axe or a splitting maul or a splitter, the more likely it is when it misses to come back, it can strike your shin or your foot. A long handle, when you miss, it'll bury itself in the ground before it gets back to your feet. So I do like that for this reason. Now this one, I doubt that's the original handle. I bought this from a guy online. And I didn't even mean to buy this. I'd never seen one before. I went to buy a hewing axe off the guy, and when I showed up he had a whole assortment of axes laid out on his garage floor. And I saw this one sitting there and I was intrigued, and gave me a pretty good price on it, so I thought I'd give it a try. So I'm very happy with it. You saw me splitting last week. I'll split up a couple of small pieces just to show the action, see if I can do it a close-up to show you how that works. I don't have my safety glasses with me actually. I don't know where I put them, but you should wear safety glasses when you're doing this as well. I didn't come straight down on it. You really should come straight down. This wedge is just starting to engage and it already started splitting it. I don't know if you could see that. See how the kind of bounced back out again? That was that wedge bottoming out. And it was a very weak swing, and it's still pretty well split it. Try that again with a very weak swing again. See how it popped right back out again? So all the energy got transferred to that instead of into a bite. Got transferred into the splitting action. So that's split into a bunch of pieces. Let's hit it once from the other side and it'll split open. Because I was choked up on that axe, it couldn't follow through too. So Chopper One Axe, like I said, .com, I think it is. I think they're only like 80 bucks US or something like that. I don't get anything for it. I just discovered it myself and people were asking about it, so there you go. Alright, I think that's it for this video. It's getting very, very cold actually. Starting to clear up finally. It was cold enough, but now with no cloud cover and the sun going down, it's going to get cold really fast. So I'm going to have to split up a bunch more wood and get that fire roaring. Get to working on the floor inside. So thanks for watching this one, guys. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you up here in the cabin next week. Take care. Have a great week. To get out of the heat. It's a little warm in there. Not that warm, but it's warmer than out here, that's for sure. It's still about -9 Celsius, and actually I've got a thermometer in there. I'll check that. I'm not sure what it is inside. Depends where you are in the cabin. It's nice and warm near the stove and up in the loft, but the far north side, especially where the gaps are, it's kind of cool. Wanted to talk about something this week that is actually more of a rant than a reflection. And it's a result of an interview I saw earlier this week by a Canadian prepper who interviewed Survival Lily. Lily has a big YouTube channel based on survival, of course. She has almost 600,000 subscribers. And I'm not sure how many videos. She has a lot of videos. And they're mostly skill related rather than trip related. Tutorials showing you how to do things and building a camp and so on, and very, very good tutorials. She does a great job of explaining how to do things. The concise videos don't drag on too long. But one of the questions he asked her some very good questions. One of them, and I have to thank her for this, he asked who she would choose to be on her team in the SHTF
situation, and she mentioned myself, Joe Robinette, Doug Outside, and Cedric, and appreciate that. It was pretty cool to be mentioned by her. Of course, I would put her on my team too. I think she's got a lot of skills, but that's what I wanted to talk about because she is very proficient, very skilled. She has a nice personality, and like I said, she's very concise and gets the message across very quickly. But the amount of hate she gets is unbelievable, and it's actually despicable. I see the comments that guys have written on her page, and basically on every video. I think she's had to disable comments because there's just so much negativity, and it just makes zero sense. If this guy was doing that same content, putting out that same content, filming those same skills, and presenting them on a YouTube channel, they would get nothing but praise. And the fact that she's a woman, the amount of hate she gets for that is just, like I said, it's actually despicable. I just can't believe guys in this day and age are still intimidated by strong women. And I see the comments and I think, is that the way you treat all women, or is that the way you talk to your mother? Because I doubt it. But you seem to think it's okay to do it on somebody's YouTube channel. And it's not just directed at Lily, of course. It happens to a lot of women that are in genres or even trades in the real world. I've seen that on job sites, a woman carpenter or a sheet metal worker or electrician or something. And the amount of disrespect they get is just despicable. And I just can't believe guys are so insecure still that they are intimidated by a strong woman. I'm married to a strong woman, and I'm proud of that. And there's the joke about go make let me do that and you go make a sandwich in the kitchen. And Lily had a good response for that. But just to think that women have certain roles and certain tasks that they have to do, and men get to go off and do their own thing. Of course, men being the stronger gender, and in the past where that had more importance, made sense that men went and did the more physical tasks like the hunting or the cabin building or whatever, and the women did the stuff back at camp. That made sense, and it still does make sense to a certain degree. But if there's exceptions to that and there's strong women who want to do the things that we do, then I don't understand why we have a problem with that as men. So like I said, I'm proud to be married to a strong woman who's not overly domestic. And I'm not sure how she's going to react to seeing this on camera, but she's more inclined to want to do things like business rather than house cleaning. Not that she doesn't do both, but what I found is that by sharing the duties, it doesn't reduce me as a man. It just makes me, more of a man, that I can actually make a better life for my woman, for my wife, and for my daughters. Marriages work not because the woman's in the kitchen and doing the cleaning and the man's out doing the physical labor or going to work. To me, marriages work because both partners are willing to put in equal effort no matter what the task is. So if my wife is busy doing something like, as a lot of you know, she does a lot of the photo processing. So if I take photos of the cabin or out on my trips, or if she goes out with me and takes photographs, she does the editing of those photographs. And I do all the editing of all the film, and I take all the film. So when she's doing that, that's great. She's helping me do something that's taking some of my time away. So as a result, I'm in the kitchen sometimes cooking or cleaning or doing other things that some people think are just traditional tasks for women. If she was lazy, if she wasn't carrying her weight and I was doing her job, see, there's that. I just repeated a stereotype. So if my wife was doing other things, like whether she was helping me out with the cabin or another project, or like I said, the photo processing or something else, or the website management, then and I'm helping out in the kitchen, I'm not sitting back saying resentful because she's sitting on the couch while I'm doing these things and then going off to work or doing whatever else I'm doing, building the cabin in this case. So I'm proud of the fact that we share the duties, that neither one of us is lazy, and that comes from respect for one another as well. I couldn't sit on the couch watching her work, and she couldn't sit on the couch watching me work and feel okay about that. That's not how successful relationships work and successful marriages. So I wanted to just put that message out there. I wanted, hopefully, for people to think before they make negative comments and nasty comments on somebody's YouTube channel who's out there doing something for, I think, for the good of people, and I think the good of society. I see Lily passing on her skills, the things that she's learned, or that she's gone out and learned specifically so that she can present it on her YouTube channel. To me, it's very helpful that I can go to one place and I can learn how to do different things, like a heated floor in a shelter that she did last week. And the fact that she was able to make a career of it, I think, is a great thing as well. So many people dislike or give people a hard time for making money on YouTube, which I just cannot even understand. I don't understand that mentality. What makes somebody else's job more important than that job that Lily or other YouTubers do for a living? They're earning money by inspiring, by teaching you skills, by entertaining you, much like an actor or an athlete or someone else in the entertainment industry or in the educational industry. Why should those people get paid and not somebody who does the same thing on YouTube? To me, that's fantastic that she's able to earn a living and dedicate all of her time to doing that so she can create great content for the audience. So I commend her for that, and I would like to see more of that. I hope YouTube doesn't mess this up and they continue to pay the content creators so that they can make a career of it and continue to bring that great content to us. So that's my message for the week. I know it's not typical. It actually is a rant, and it's something I feel strongly about. I've been watching the comments on Lily's channel for probably a year and a half, and I see the pain in her eyes when she's answering the questions and she's posting on her Facebook the nasty remarks that she's had from people, nasty comments, and like everyone else, she's got feelings too. And why would you hurt somebody for what? What do you get out of that? I don't understand. So that's it. That's a little bit of the Irish temper maybe coming out. This is the way I feel. I hate seeing people that are picked on. I'm not the type to go out and start a fight, but I'm certainly not the type to back down from one either. And when I see somebody in a weaker position or somebody who can't defend themselves, in this case online, then I feel strongly about stepping in and trying to help out that situation. So anyway, that's just who I am. Wanted to answer a question that a lot of you guys have had about how I got out of $750,000 in debt and then turned it around and was able to rebuild my wealth to a reasonable level. So basically, business is business, regardless of what size the contracts are, how many zeros there are behind the numbers. So in other words, when I first started out in business, I was doing residential work, and the average contract was about $5,000. What Trump said in Art of the Deal, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong if anybody knows, is that it's just as time consuming, it takes just as much of your energy to do a $5,000 deal as it does to do a $50,000 deal or a $500,000 or a $5 million deal. And I found that to be very true. So when I started my business, I was doing residential work at $5,000 a contract. I got into commercial contracting instead, where the average contract was $50,000, and there was many that were, I think the biggest project we did might have been $750,000. So that principle allowed me to grow my first real company from zero to $12 million in sales in about a year and a half. Problem is, because those numbers are so big, when it fell, when I got hit by the financial crisis in 2008 and finally went out of business in 2010, the numbers were huge. So at any time I was owing creditors, vendors, suppliers, material suppliers and contractors upwards of well over $1 million. So when I got into that trouble and
the debts kept accumulating and the payments were coming in to pay that off. It got over $1 million in debt difference that was never going to get paid off. So what happened is that I got the business debt down to about $1 million, and I had guaranteed $750,000 of that when we went completely out of business. So the creditors coming after me for that $750,000 meant that I needed to either resign myself to never owning anything again, never having a business again, never really being more than just a slave to the creditors, going to work, paying my basic bills, and then every other bit of money going to them. So what I did is I used the same principle. I thought, well, if my average contract was $50,000 and average big contract was say $300,000, why not go after a business that averages about $3 million per contract? Something to keep in mind is when you are going up and when you're growing, everybody wants to be your friend. When you're on your way back down again, nobody wants to be your friend. It's very easy to take that very personally and write those people off, whoever wasn't standing by your side on the way down, and burning those bridges. What I found is that if I didn't do that, which I didn't do, I was able to go back to some of those people that I could have resented and found a way to get back into business, took on some partners, and went after those $3 million contracts. And as it turned out, we got about 100 of them. So basically $300 million worth of business we were able to sign in a matter of a couple of years, and then turned around and sold that business. And my cut of that was substantial enough to pay off not only the debts that I'd acquired from the business, but also the house. I was able to pay that off, get that back in my possession, my wife and I's possession, pay off any vehicles, and basically turn around to become completely debt-free and never needing credit again, hopefully. In fact, I plan to never use credit again. So, I mean, that's a very, very high level, and I know that, and I'll get maybe into more detail in the future, but it's just the thought that takes way more effort. What I found out is it actually takes more effort, not equivalent even. It takes more effort to do little contracts and make little amounts of money than it does to do big contracts and make all kinds of money. So that's what I found, and that's how I got out of debt. And from here forward, I'm on my own and just doing what I love to do, and that's what I'm doing right here in front of you. So that's it. I know this was a bit of a short video, maybe not quite as interesting, a lot less building, but it was a good week for me to just catch up on things and get the chinking done, get the stone floor done at the front entrance and the under the wood stove, and get some more firewood cut and things like that. So not a lot of stuff that was interesting enough to put on film, but felt good to get that done and out of the way. So thanks for watching this video, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great week, and I'll see you up here at the cabin next week. Take care.